This show is brought to you by Kings Ridge Elderberry Farm. Visit tkrfarm.com. That's the Kings Ridge Farm, tkrfarm.com, and purchase your elderberry needs from the Kings Ridge Elderberries. Use code WB10, that's Waterbreak WB10, for 10% off of your first order. And as kind of a personal anecdote here, me and my wife have used this elderberry cocktail that they make. It's fantastic, and our kids love it. In fact, our kids are putting it in yogurt and all sorts of things. And we've had other flavors before that we've not liked, and the cocktail that they put together for their elderberry juice is fantastic. Go to tkrfarm.com and support them. Hey y'all, welcome to Waterbreak TV. It's good to be with you. I'm your host, Gabe, the Water Boy. This is my wife, Annie, the Water Girl.
Hey guys.
And we hope you guys, before we get into the show, we're going to talk about how we got here, how our health got here, how our health got here when we're 40 years old. My wife's going to talk about it way better than me.
Clearly, we've downloaded together about what we're talking about a lot.
So, but before we get there, make sure you guys check out our summit, our health summit here in March 27th, 28th. You can go to Waterbreak TV, waterbreak.tv to check out all the details about our summit. We have regular tickets, and then we have VIP tickets, which come with a dinner on Friday night. So make sure you guys, if you're able to, would love to see you guys here in our town. Got a number of great speakers. You guys already got to meet Dr. Tabitha from last week. We got Ben Greenfield. We got Joel Green. Some good panels and speakers that we think will be a good benefit to you in your health and your walk with the Lord. So check out waterbreak.tv. So, exciting. With that said, should I just introduce my notes and my idea of this topic?
Well, why don't I say what we're talking about?
There you go. Let's do that. Let's do that.
You're not totally
I'll define the terms and conditions, and then you're like, no, I was thinking a little differently. Yeah.
Okay, so what I titled my notes, you guys, and what I want to talk about today, and Gabe does too, even though he doesn't quite know what it is that we're talking about.
I'll make it work.
He's gonna make it work.
I'm a master at that.
I titled it, How Do We Get Here? And what I mean when I say that is, how is it that so many people, men and women alike, hit roughly their 40s and just their health just completely implodes? Like, it's so bad.
Is that an overstatement, or is that a...
I don't think it's an overstatement. I think it is on average. Obviously, you guys, you could hit 30 and bad things could happen, or you could be like, no, for me, it wasn't until I turned 50. But I mean, on average... And I'm basing this off of all the people I see, family members, the billions of, that's an overstatement, hundreds of people that I work with every day. I work with billions of people every day. Billions of people. Feels like it. Some days it feels like it. Hundreds of people, more women than men, but I've talked to them all. And the trend really is like 40, 45, where everybody just gets to that point in their life, and it's usually not like everything was perfect and then bam, it's usually gradual, but usually it's right around that time where everyone is just like, I mean, the women, the biggest thing is just like, I'm weight loss resistant. Either you're overweight or you're thin, but you're just like barely eating and you're so weight loss resistant, and usually you don't feel good. And it's all of them. It's like almost all of them. And they're all saying the same thing. I'm desperate. What used to work doesn't work anymore. They all say exactly the same thing. And a lot of you are already not eating very much, which we talk about all the time. And then for the men, usually you see more weight on their body. Usually see a belly, right? Sometimes it's a lot of weight. Sometimes it's just a little, depending on the body. You start to see insulin resistance. You start seeing high blood pressure. I mean, so many men and women in their 40s end up on blood pressure medication because their blood pressure is completely not managed and way too high. So it's just, I just want to talk about it. Like, why does this happen? Because 40 isn't really that old. Like, it really isn't. And it's just strange that so many people find themselves in this just really unhealthy place, this really, really unhealthy place. And this place of, I don't know, either like your doctor is telling you that you got to get on all these medications, that kind of thing, or just from more of a metabolic or a body composition standpoint, where you're just like, I cannot lose weight no matter what I do. I do all the things that I used to do. It doesn't work anymore. And I just, and the reason I thought that I wanted to talk about this is because we just recently did that podcast on fasting, which if you haven't listened, you really should. It was good and very thought-provoking. And I got so much feedback on that, so much in person, online, just questions, people sharing their experiences. And then I did a car video like right before that on GLP-1s. And so that has just brought up a lot of what we're talking about here, where women in particular get to about 40, 45, somewhere in there. And they're just in such a bad place metabolically that they're absolutely desperate. And so that is why they keep finding themselves turning to super extreme measures, you guys. Aggressive fasting. I know it's like in right now, so we've sort of been like, it's been sort of normalized to be like, I fast. But like, if you could step outside of that and you look in on it, just not eating several days out of your week is extreme and not normal at all. Or taking a very expensive, heavy hitting drug that literally goes into your body, blunts your hunger so that you don't eat. And I guess, I don't know, the plan is to just take it for the rest of your life. That's extreme. Like you gotta be pretty desperate or pretty lazy on the drug side, to be thinking about that. You know what I mean? And my heart goes out to you because I know a lot of you really are. You're not lying. You're not like saying that you're not eating a lot, but really you are, or like you really are metabolically downregulated. Your health is so poor. Your metabolic health is so poor that those are like seemingly your only options. And that's why I want to talk about it. It's like, how does this happen? Mm-hmm. How do you get to where your body is 40-ish years old and these are your only options, or at least that's what it seems like. And I don't see as many men. I see men fasting. I don't see as many men on the GLPs. Women just famously care more about their weight, and they also mess their metabolisms up more over their lifespan, so they need things like this more. But you see men doing really poorly also. This is when all the medications come in. Doctors are like, your insulin is not looking good. You're pre-diabetic. You're this, you're that. You know, they have the belly, and it's not good. Yeah. You know, do you ever see someone that like you grew up with? Like I grew up in this, you didn't, but I grew up in this town. And so there's some people here that I like went to high school with or went to college with. So like that I've known or like been an acquaintance for a really long time. Do you guys ever see someone where you haven't seen him in a while and you look at him and you're like, oh man, like you're a lot heavier. You just look old and kind of haggard and then you realize like, oh, that kid graduated 3 grades behind me. I'm older than you and you look so old. We're just getting to this place where it's like, you can really be going a bad way by the time you hit 40. And a lot of people are. And I think the only way to come up with a solution is to look back and get to the root of what got us here. Because I think it's kind of a long process. I don't think you just overnight do one thing and this is where you end up. I think a lot of things have happened over time. And that's what I want to talk about. So anyways, now that you know what we're talking about, I got thoughts.
Now my wife always talks more about the health side of the problem.
Yes.
And I'm kind of more like the theological side of the problem. And of course, I think some of this answer you can just boil down to like God, Jesus, Bible kind of thing. Like Adam fell, sin, and the world got worse. And our bodies fell because of that. And before the fall, there was no disease. There was no need for blood pressure and stuff like that. So we are living in a fallen world. And so there are going to be problems with our bodies. It's just the nature of like where we're at in the fallen world. So that's a God, Jesus, Bible answer.
And would you be like, and would you take that so far as to say like, this is to some degree part of aging, part of being in a body that is slowly dying from the day that you're born. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's the curse. That's the curse of the fall.
And there is some truth to, even I agree with that.
But that doesn't mean we don't fight.
Right.
And that doesn't mean we don't try to fight the curse. Like God calls us to, we're called to fight the curse. I mean, that's the whole point of now post fall. How do we engage in this world against Satan and the devil and the world and the decline of the world.
Well, and take the best care of our bodies that we can. Maybe we're not
very much as part of that
guys.
in our food and all that stuff. And then I think we mentioned this on the show before. I'd love to actually maybe do like a whole show kind of breaking this down. But we're the first. I was talking to Brad Rowe about this, and we're the first society, probably in the history of time, that actually we have desk jobs or a majority desk jobs. We're the first society that like manual labor is still very prevalent in our society, but it's also desk jobs, phone jobs, staring at a computer job kind of thing, which no one before us could imagine needing, the the fitness gym business model would not have existed in the 1600s, 1400s, 1200s, generally speaking, because most of the work was actually physical.
I think it probably would have been kind of looked at as insane because...
Imagine in your 1000 BC and you open a local fitness gym in your community.
Well, for a long time, the goal as humans was to not starve. Right, the biggest issue around was hunger. Do we have enough food,
enough nutrients?
Only the kings or the rich people or the tyrant or whatever lived in abundance, right? Yeah. And then at a certain point, and I wish I knew my
this is where I'd love to do like a whole show like breaking this down. Yeah,
that's really interesting. But where would you say like where in the last 100 years, what do you think
that started to churn?
Gyms started actually being like, okay, now we just do workout, we do fitness. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what decade I think that would be in, but it is, if you look back in human history, fairly recent. That's your point.
That's right. So in the last 200 years-ish, 150 years, whatever.
We're not moving enough to be strong and get enough movement in that we actually have to go simulate it.
That's right.
And pay for a membership to do that.
Exactly. And so it'd be interesting, actually, if you guys have any answers, you can email us wrenchmedia@gmail.com or put in the comments, like, when was the first gym ever open?
I know. I bet there is an answer. It probably has something to do with the bodybuilding movement.
But that needs to be noted that we're in a new way of living that most of the world has never experienced. We can wake up at 2 a.m. and go to our fridge and get a snack.
Yeah.
Right? We can, the access to food, if for at least Americans, I mean, even the poor are in a first world nation. Even the poor in America live better than the poor in Africa.
There's more access. It's not quality food, but there's way more options. Yeah.
And so because of that, I think we are in a situation where we kind of need to figure out this new, and a lot of it, let's just summarize it, this new blessing that God has given us. Having a refrigerator is a fantastic blessing.
Yeah.
Having a desk job is nice. I enjoy my job. I wouldn't say it's all desk, but most of it is inside of my studio, inside my office, upstairs in the studio.
Well, and usually a desk job usually is, it means that you're utilizing technology. You're using a computer, you're using a phone, you're using the internet. So it's like, it means that there's
there's not tons of body movement.
Way more, but I'm just saying, like, we have way more job opportunities because of it. And there's so many jobs and things that you could never do before we had that. So it is a blessing, but a lot of people just sit all day, and it's a lot of sitting.
So we aren't using our bodies like we used to, especially men. And everything. So now,
right, especially men.
And so now the math equation is you're using your body less. There's more access to food than you've ever had. You basically are having some sort of first world dinner every night, like some sort of version of a Sabbath dinner every night that 400, 300, 200 years ago, they would have been like, this is a feast.
That would be,
but this is just like a normal Monday night dinner now.
Yeah.
For Americans. So.
Or it can be, at least. We have the option. Yeah, you can DoorDash that right to your house.
Yeah, that's right. So the equation is more access to food than ever, less movement, less body movement than ever, and I think that's contributing. And so part of the question is we need to ask is how do we handle God's blessing well in such a way, where we're living as long and as healthy as possible for our family, our church, our grandchildren, our community. Eventually, this is what's going to be crazy, is because Isaiah prophesies that if you die before 100 years old, that guy's going to be cursed. That guy, everyone's going to be thinking like, oh yeah,
there's something wrong with that guy.
He wasn't living for the Lord, kind of
right.
thing. And so at some point in, I believe, the restoration of the world, which is happening now, at some point in the restoration of the world, we're going to be living way over 100 years old. And if you die before 100 years old, everyone's like, man, that guy died young.
Yeah.
And everything.
That is interesting to think about. So you bring this up often, and I think it's the whole, like, we're moving just in our everyday life less than ever. Plus we have full-time access to basically as much food as we want, any kind of food as we want. And I think those are big players, especially in like general pop America. I think those are probably some of the biggest players of how, and you're right, if that is what you're doing, you're going to live your life and it's going to kind of compound, and then you're going to hit midlife-ish, 40, 50, and you're going to start having some real problems, just because that's the nature of doing something bad over time. Yeah. So I think That's true. Do you?
Yeah. I got two more quick things, and then I'll pass over to you. And then the second thing is, I don't need to go as long on this one, but like the industrialization of our food, there's been a lot of blessing from that too. Like we don't want to just immediately jump to, oh, we've changed the way we've done things, and so now it's bad. Now we do want to analyze: is the change good? Is the change good for us or not? I have no problem with that question. But the industrialization of food, we're not eating real food like we used to. And by real food, basically straight from the cow, straight from the,
the
farm,
tree, the ground,
right. the fruit from the tree, stuff like that. Everything at some levels being like composted into a pill almost. Mm-hmm. So we just need wisdom there. And I said, really, this is the last point. Is let me just read it here. Christians are not thinking clearly about food, health, fitness, and our bodies. And Christians, I'd say, we've largely abandoned this space and given it over to and let the secular thought and the government control it all. So I could flesh this out a little bit, but like the government controls all our health information, all our medical information, all our education of all our doctors, and so it's the family who should be taking the lead on our local health, our family's health and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We've basically abdicated that to the government control of information, all the way from the certification and doctor process of our doctors and the education of our doctors to even regulating our local hospitals. What's right, what's wrong, and then that's how you get COVID vaccines forced on you, is because the government now thinks they know what's best for us,
right? And
then you're sitting there as a family reacting versus leading the health of your family and everything. So those would be kind of my 3 points, I think, on kind of big picture on how we got here.
Yeah.
And I think, from the structural side of things all the way to how the family needs to be thinking about our the theology behind what we're created for, how God has created us, how God is, we don't want to be fighting with food. I feel like we're fighting against food in our time. Mm-hmm. We're fighting against our health a little bit. We're kind of, it's almost a combative relationship that we have between our health and food and our family culture and everything. And I think we want to undo all that and make it a very blessed, positive, and really grateful experience versus where I feel like it's more of a negative experience right now. So
yeah,
that'd be my 3 things on how we got here.
Well, I like your thoughts. So I have to qualify some of the things that I'm going to say here, because it really, how we got here really depends on the person and what they've been doing. Like what you just described was
kind of macro-ish.
The average American problem, mm-hmm. The Walmart person, the person at the theme park or the mm-hmm. mall that you see who's like super morbidly obese and they're in one of those scooters and they have like Doritos and whatever in their cart, like.
I don't think I'm just describing that. I mean, I think I'm just...
Well, I'm making that's an extreme example. But what you're talking about is somebody who is not moving enough and is truly overeating.
Yeah.
Eating just
that
too
equation.
Much. Yeah.
We got access to the food and we walking less or whatever.
And it's easy to do here. Yeah. It's very easy to do here because of all the highly palatable processed food that's cheap, because you can DoorDash anything to your house, because you can live your entire life, make your money, do your job now without moving at all, mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. And I think there's plenty of those people in the population. I think a lot of men at 40 are just like, okay, I'm not getting away with it anymore. It's catching up to me. I'm not getting away with it anymore. Would probably fall under that category. But some of the things and I think that's more obvious. It's not like it's an easy fix, but it's obvious. Like you're literally eating too much bad food and you're not moving. Right. So, and I've said this before, I actually like working with people where that's the problem because it's easier. It's just like, okay, let's just rein it in a little bit. Like let's eat let's make some swaps. Let's eat more whole food. Let's get your protein up. Let's eat less processed food. Let's not eat so much sugar every day. And like I said, it's not always simple. Habits are hard to break. Food is addictive. There's people eat for a lot of reasons. Like it's not always simple, or easy, but it is pretty simple. And then you just have to figure out how to start getting effective movement mm-hmm. into your life, Mm-hmm. But some of the things that I want to talk about are actually a different demographic, but I think there's a lot of them out there. And these are the women that find me. That's the thing. These are the women who have been trying their whole life and care. And they're still a disaster at 40. And that's what's so weird, because it's one thing if you've just eaten ho-hos and done nothing and then you're like fat and diabetic at 40, it's not that big of a surprise, you know? It's just kind of like, okay, I guess this is probably what was going to happen. Unless you're living in complete denial, you're not probably that surprised. But the women who have been like trying their whole life, weight conscious, dieting, that, always trying, maybe not trying smartly, but trying, right? And like you said, I mean, it's whatever the government, like, here's your food guide pyramid, here's the next fad diet.
Here's your upside down
the
pyramid.
The guy says to do this, so, you know, only eat cereal, and they're like, okay, you know, and I mean, part of the problem has been that, right? Just taking the, you know, jumping on whatever stupid fad bandwagon, you know, and you do that enough times, you could actually end up in a really bad spot. So I kind of want to talk, my first one of how do we get here? I want to talk to those women. And again, I think there's a lot of you out there. You're definitely in the gym. You're definitely in the health space. And you're the ones who come find me because the other people don't tend to care about their health. They're not coming, they're not listening to a podcast like this usually, unless you're just ready to have a huge transformation. And if that's the case, great. And your plan is fairly simple. You truly actually just need to eat a little less and move more, which is so it's just lovely. And I've said this before, for a lot of men, that's usually what you got to do. And it's so easy to help a guy lose weight because he hasn't dieted his whole life. So all that to say, one of the reasons that so many women that I work with, that I know, that are related to me, that I just, you know, that talk to me, that I see online, they hit 40, and they are weight loss resistant. They're eating very little. They feel terrible, you guys. You feel terrible. So bad. And you're desperate. And like I said at the start, this is why you're like, I'm thinking about a GLP, and you're not kidding. You've tried everything. You've done the keto, you've done the carnivore, you've done this diet, you've done that diet. You're not.
And you've seen people lose weight on GLP.
And they do.
Yeah.
I mean, right off their face, they'll lose it. I mean, just, and you're really desperate, you know? And this is because, and you could be, I want to make this clear. You could be a thin version of this, desperate, not feeling good, barely eating.
Yeah.
Or you could be an overweight version, which is even crazier. You know, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, how am I holding on to 50 extra pounds or 75 extra pounds and I'm barely eating and I've done everything right? You know what I mean? Like, or at least it seems like you have. You've tried so hard. And this is simply due, number one, this is how you got here. Years of dieting, you guys, years of dieting. And I this has to be more directed towards women because more women do it. I don't really know what else to say. I know there's men out there who have dieted their whole life. And this applies to you too. It's not that different. You just see this with women so much more often. And usually, you guys, the dieting is driven by an obsession with being thin, not healthy. Okay? Now, I just want you guys to hear me, and you can interject on any of this. Everybody wants to be thinner. And I understand if you're like 300 pounds or morbidly obese, thinner is a good goal. But if your goal in your brain is, I just want the scale to go down, not I want better health, which may also include losing out of fat tissue, right? What you end up doing to get to that goal is going to look very different, okay? And that's part of the problem, because your ultimate goal drives your behaviors. How you are trying to lose the weight or do the thing really matters. So if all you care about is being thin, and some of y'all have weight to lose, and body fat is inflammatory. You should lose it. Some of y'all are insane and you have problems, and like you don't need to lose.
Whether it's thyroid or something.
No. I mean, insane. Like you're 120 pounds and you're trying to lose weight, like crazy.
Yeah.
And you need a shrink, and you need help. So I mean, again,
eat more, gain 10 more.
But
pounds,
ultimately, those of you in any of those camps, if your goal is just to be thin, you're going to see years of yo-yo dieting, and that's just simply doing any diet by any name. It can be, I just eat this special product, I take this shot, I do this drug, I do fasting. It doesn't matter. Any means to fairly aggressively restrict. You do it for a while, and then you can't stay with it because it's too extreme, and your body's starving, and the hunger cues win. You fall off the wagon, and then you're like, you gain all the weight back, maybe a little bit more, and then you're like, okay, my friend is doing this new thing. Have you heard of it? It's called HCG. I'm going to try it, and then you try it. Oh, you're doing great. Not sustainable, because as it turns out, eating 800 calories a day is not sustainable. And then you get too hungry, you fall off the wagon, and then you gain it all back, maybe a little more. And then you do this over and over and over again. And I don't know that many women who haven't done this. And if you think back in your life, starting in high school, ladies, which is really sad to me. And it makes me try to be really, really aware of the way I talk about food, body weight, relationship with food, why we eat what we eat, the way that we eat. To my girls, it's because I think those are very formative years. And I think a lot of women look back to either high school or college Someone said something to them. Some mean boy said a comment. Their mom said something. And that put them on a trajectory of binge dieting, yo-yo dieting, for the rest of their life. And number one, I want my girls to not be that fragile. Like, I want them to have enough self-esteem and a good head on their shoulders. So some dumb comment by some dumb person does not absolutely shatter them. But also, number two, I do think they're formative years, and at least what's being said from authorities in their life, like their parents or teachers, or whatever, coaches, I would like it to be good. So I'm trying to be really aware of that, because it's a really important time. But ultimately, you guys, if your goal is thin, it's just years of yo-yo dieting. For some people, it's constant restriction and you just hop from one style to the other. For others, it's kind of like this. You're on the wagon, off the wagon, on the wagon, off the wagon. But it's under eating. It's no focus on athleticism, building muscle, eating good food in order to be nurtured, to have good hormone profile, to even have the ability to exercise, to have the ability to build muscle. That is not on your radar. And if you do that for years, and I don't care how well-intentioned you are, I don't care if you at the time were like, yes, I am dieting. If you were, you were. And that's all your body knew. And that can get you, by the time you hit, and for some reason, it's just high school to 40, whatever that, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, depending on, the person. That's how long it takes to absolutely tank a metabolism. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, that's how long it takes. And if we look at the other side of things, if your goals that whole time, if we could go back in time, wouldn't that be great? If your goals were health, and maybe this still includes, my body does need to lose some weight. Some bodies do, like, to be optimally healthy. You would focus on smart, but a good amount of cardiovascular fitness. You would focus on learning how to strength train, learning how to build muscle. You would focus on sleep. You would focus on eating enough food, quality food, nourishing your body, etc. You would be in a totally different place.
I just want to highlight, we've said this in different ways over the show over the last 2 years, but like part of, imagine, Annie comes to you and says, actually, you should be eating more food.
Annie does come to many of you.
Yes, yeah.
She does come to many of you and say that, actually.
And imagine, like, the message is, stop being so adversarial with your food,
in your body.
And your body.
Stop hating your body,
and
starving.
And to stop, and to actually get out and move your body a little more or something,
Yeah, we're going to get to that one.
Imagine that's the messaging. The general messaging right now is like, eat less, eat less, eat less. Your problem is always you need to eat less.
Always. It's all consuming.
Yeah.
How can I do it?
And then
how can I do it?
What Annie's been saying is, you actually, if you eat less, well, your body's going to readjust to that new normal.
Right.
And then you eat less, and your body's going to adjust that new normal. And what you actually are doing over time is training your metabolism to have some bad habits.
Well, just not, I would say, to move as slowly and conservatively as possible. Yeah. Which is, that's irony, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it?
So this
like the whole point is to lose weight, and actually you end up fatter than ever with a metabolism that won't allow for anything because you've dieted so much.
So that's part of the problem here is that we've been so trained, and our ears have been so trained to like, I just need to eat less. I need to eat, I need to lose weight.
Eat less.
Then that's why I want to
eat less.
This is kind of what we want to do at our summit too. Is like, I want to reframe what it means to be healthy, to what it means to be thinking clearly about food and all that, and how all that connects to our walk with the Lord, versus like just keep hearing the same messaging really since the 90s, maybe before that. At least I was.
We blame the 90s.
Yeah,
for
we blame the 90s.
I
Jenny Craig. I actually blame Jenny Craig.
You always bring up Jenny Craig. I don't even think you remember.
Was she 90s or who?
I don't know.
Who was 90s? What was the diet in the 90s?
Tons of diets in the 90s.
Yeah.
Tons of diets in the 90s. I don't think Jenny Craig was the main one. I just think it's the name you remember.
The main messaging you've been hearing for something plus 40 years is that if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less
and thin.
And you need to be thin. And you need to be
thin is all that matters. Even if you are thin, you could be thinner.
Yeah.
You could be thinner.
And that's why
so thin.
Like, we need to reframe this whole conversation. So I'll just say what Annie's saying should actually be very encouraging. You're like, I actually could get to a situation. It might take a little work, as Annie says all the time. Yeah. I actually could get to a situation where I could eat more and not be overweight like I am now. Yep. And the answer is yes.
Yes. So, and if you had done these things starting in high school, and this is to this particular group of women I'm talking to, you'd be in a much better place. You'd have a much higher metabolic rate. You'd have more muscle on your body. You would be able to eat more. But that's how it happens. And also, this is just a general issue also, you guys, of people not understanding how metabolism works. Like people don't understand, and they don't seem to want to understand, because all we care about is getting a quick fix now. Like, I want to be thin now. Give me Ozempic now so I can be 10 pounds lighter in 2 weeks. Yep. But nobody thinks, what is that going to do to your metabolic rate and all your hunger symbols, et cetera, especially once you have to get off the drug, which I'm sorry, you guys, most of you are going to have to get off of it. So, and doctors don't seem to understand it either. I don't
There's some.
There's a few, and I think it's growing, but I think it should be not even legal to prescribe a GLP-1 just because that's the drug of our time, without requiring DEXA scans so that people can see what their muscle mass is starting on it and what their muscle mass continues to be.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think it would be horrifying for people and the doctors. I don't think you should be prescribing it without mandatory, regular, every 3 to 6 months DEXA scans. And number two, you should not be prescribing that to anybody until they accurately track their intake and you know what their baseline is. Because if anybody,
you mean their baseline of food?
Yeah.
Because,
if you're already
if you're at 800 calories,
if you're already under eating, you have no business. You are doing medical harm to put somebody on that drug. And you guys, a lot of people, not all of them. There's people who are overeating. They're dealing with food addiction, leptin insensitivity, hunger hormones that are messed up, GLP, naturally occurring GLP that's messed up. There are people out there, and I know that. I still think this drug should be a last resort, even for you, but it at least makes a little more sense for the women who are already under eating. You're clocking in 1,200 calories a day, and you're like, I want to be thinner. That's medical malpractice. And you have no business as a doctor prescribing a heavy duty drug like this to somebody who's already under eating. And I'm sorry, it should be illegal. I don't know how that works, but it shouldn't be legal. Like, people shouldn't be doing it.
I'm a libertarian. I got to do it.
It's like, no. Everyone,
if they want to do stupid stuff. No, Annie makes a great point about like being able to look at your muscle mass, document it, that kind of thing. I do want to say, as part of this though, and you don't disagree with this either, but it's like, you're responsible for your own body.
Yeah, that's
true. If you know you aren't eating very well, and then you're getting on a GLP-1 too on top of that, it's like,
come on.
Be more responsible. Take more responsibility for yourself.
You should.
Your doctor's going to give you advice based on what he knows, what his medical information is being given to him, what drugs are available to him to help your problems. Like, that's what your doctor's going to help you with. And so in one sense, don't blame him for the solution, because you aren't being responsible for your own self in the first place.
I still blame the doctor. Just
I think there's responsibility there.
I totally agree. We all need to get more educated, and you need to stop going off. Ladies, so many of you are like, well, you've been under eating for so long that you do think you eat enough, and you have no idea, and you're like, you have no idea how many calories are going in your body, and if you measured it and it was 1,000, you'd be like, well, it's pretty, feels good to me. Yeah. Like, we're so far off, like our reference ranges are so messed up, and so many of these girls have been dieting and under eating since high school. I mean, that's a long time. Yeah. And again, that's why your metabolic rate is so stinking low by the time you hit 40. That's why.
My pastor uses a great metaphor where you're a ship leaving dock, and let's say you're going from Seattle to Hawaii. And if you're off 1 degree, 2 degrees already from when you leave Seattle, by the time you get to Hawaii, you're going to be way off. And so this is what's happened a lot in our health world. Annie's taking this back to when you're 15, 16, 17 in high school.
For most girls.
Yeah. If you're off a little bit, imagine how off you're going to be when you're 40 years old. And
right,
so
that's what exactly what it is.
Farther and farther
it's
away.
All your bad, it's all these bad things compounding over time, and it always hits right around 40. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to keep going.
Yep.
How much time max do you have?
I got 15 more minutes.
Oh, you guys!
I know.
Okay, listen. I just
always leave them wanting more.
I just want to mention this to you guys before I move on to the next thing. That under eating for years is not bad just because it creates major weight loss resistance. Now, that's the biggest complaint, understandable, and it does do that. But you're also looking at, oftentimes this is how you disrupt thyroid, is just under eating for years. It's incredibly stressful to your body. And that, of course, a low functioning thyroid will 100% feed into that low metabolic rate. It's really stressful to not eat. So you often are triggering several autoimmune issues. And this is when they start showing up. It's like, well, now I have Hashimoto's, now I have Crohn's, now I have this. Because stress triggers autoimmune, you guys. And there is nothing more stressful to a female body than years of starvation, okay? No. You're looking at your very poor hormonal profile when you're not eating enough food. That should be obvious. Major adrenal dysfunction. And if we have time, we'll get to the issue of chronic stress, but not eating is a huge chronic stress. Poor bone density, you guys. And I just don't understand why you're not taking this more seriously. Okay. Women are at very high risk for losing bone going into menopause. Not eating is just like a one-way ticket to brittle bones, and nobody seems to care. They just want everything, including their bones apparently, to weigh less so that the scale number is smaller. Not eating can lead to vast mood and energy issues. I mean, crazy mood problems where that could often be resolved if you just ate enough. Super low energy, sleep issues, gut issues, brain fog, man. That can be triggered by a lot of different things, but under eating, that's very high on the list. And by 40, these women are like, they're a disaster.
Yeah.
They're a disaster. Okay, so let's get to number 2 here, and I'll try to fast track this because we were too chatty at the start here of how did we get here? How are we doing so poorly by the age of 40? Number 2 is we have not been exercising regularly and in a smart way. Like we just haven't been doing it. And you guys, like physical fitness and muscle build from a young age is just not, we're not building it into our lives. We are not prioritizing it. We are not paying for it. We are not investing in it. It's just not a regular part of our lives. And so even if you sort of kind of like, sometimes I do, but as soon as anything comes up, as soon as you have a kid, as soon as the job changes, as soon as we get a new house, there's always something, it falls to the wayside. And it's just, we're not doing it. We're not prioritizing it. And you can get away with that in your 20s a lot of the time. But as we just talked about, as time goes on and you being sedentary, no cardiovascular fitness, no muscle build, no strength training, it builds over time. And by 40, you're a fitness disaster. I mean, you just really are. And the sad thing is we look at people who really prioritize exercise. They're very consistent with it. We look at them as like, we call them like gym rats or like health freaks. Like they're the extreme weirdos when really...
And there are those.
There are those. You can take anything too far.
Yeah.
You can be too rigid with anything. But the point I'm making is that like that actually should kind of be everybody's default. And if it was in all these years leading up to your 40s, you would not be in the pickle that you're in. Okay. And I see a lot of women try to start, and men starting right now, which better than nothing, but would have been a lot better if you had been training smartly earlier on.
I still think that needs to be defined. You said you need to be doing it now. Being a gym rat now, you're like, what do you mean you need to be doing what now?
I'm saying that one of the biggest issues that people, when they hit 40, 45, are having so many health problems is because they did not, back when they were younger, over these past 20 years, make smart, intentional, reasonable training part of their life. It just needed to be there, and it wasn't. And that's part of the problem. They have no cardiovascular fitness. This is when you start seeing the blood pressure, you start seeing the pre-diabetes, you start seeing all these things. They have no muscle. They're getting injured. They have very poor blood glucose control. Muscle is your best way to having muscle in your body is the best way to manage your glucose. And all these things are starting to be a problem. Also, very much helps with metabolic rate. It helps with weight management. It helps with all the things that are complaints when people hit the disaster that is their 40s. And and usually, like I said, we only start when our doctor starts threatening us with a serious diagnosis. Now, I'm happy for people to start at any point. Like, there's never too late, right? Don't wait another day, get going. But it would have been a lot better, you guys, if you had taken a way more preventative approach in your 20s, in your 30s, and you had built this into your life in a reasonable way. I'm not meaning you have to be an obsessive, crazy person who spends 3 hours at the gym every day, but built it into your life in a non-negotiable way where it's just like, this is what we do. This is part of the upkeep of our bodies so that when we're 40, which again is not that old, like, my gosh, like, come on. You're not a disaster. All right. A disaster with no metabolism, no bone, no muscle, and heart disease, or at least the beginning of it. And that's a paradigm shift because most busy Americans just don't, they don't make time for it. It does not make the cut one way or another. Or if it does, it's constantly being, well, this came up, the holidays, the kids, you know what I mean? One way or another, we got to fit it in. Like it's a super huge input for our health and our longevity. And so many people they haven't been doing it. And there is a subset of people who have been exercising, but they've either been taking the cardio bunny route, ladies, where usually this is those of you who, back to number one, you're obsessed with being thin. So you've only done cardio, obsessive cardio, and under eating. That's a horrible combination. It's very high stress. It is not a good way to go. And then on the flip side, you might have a gym bro kind of guy who's like fat, strong, who does no cardiovascular work, is in the gym because he's really strong, which is great, but you are probably still going to die of heart disease. So it's not even enough to just be in the gym. We need to be coming at this in a balanced way, and have started a while ago. And I'm going to also specifically say this about moms, and I really harp on this on the show, but it's because I feel very strongly about it, and I think it's incredibly important, and at least in our community, and I assume this is a lot of our listeners, we encourage moms. We're very pro-family. We encourage moms to have multiple births over time, which I have no issue with. I take no issue if you want to have a large family.
Be fruitful, multiply.
Yeah, if you're doing well and your kids are doing well and your body's holding up, and you have as many kids as you guys want. But we're doing this in a way where we are not entertaining or dealing with the fact that pregnancy and labor and delivery are incredibly athletic and physically traumatic events that require training for and effectively recovering from before you do it again. And we are not doing it. We are not killing it there. We are killing it with the baby having in the pro family and the pro mom, but we are not taking care of mom's health or going through this process wisely. And this takes training. It takes time. It takes rehab. It takes awareness. It takes putting value and investment on that. And my goodness, you guys, you go through 6 pregnancies or whatever it is you do, and then you hit 40. These are the women who come find me, and listen, I'm here for it. I'm like, let's help you. But a lot of times these women are such a disaster. Their health is such a disaster because of how hard pregnancy is on our body and how nothing has been done. Nothing from a nutritional standpoint, from a stress standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, from a rehabilitation standpoint, from a bone. I mean, pregnancy takes so much out of your body, all your nutrients, your bone, your everything. And this is why your hair falls out, your gums are bleeding. It takes a lot out of you. These women's bodies have just been trashed, honestly, and just not taken very good care of. And I don't think it's intentional. And I don't think the husbands are out there and they're like, I don't want to take care of my wife's health. I don't care. I just think people don't know and they're not thinking about this, but we need to. We really, really, really need to. Okay. So the training thing for moms is super, super important.
Well, especially a dad knows if I'm going to run a marathon, I got to train.
Right.
In the same way, like your wife is fighting the curse, your wife is, having a baby, and we don't think in that we don't need any physical training for. Like, absolutely, physical training go a long 100%. Way.
And
it's just basic kind of thoughtfulness to think through that.
Basic thoughtfulness, 100%. And it does start with just changing the way you're thinking about things a little bit. And I want to make this claim. I think men need to be training also, finding the time for that, making the time for that. But I don't think there's a demographic that needs it more than moms. Simply because, number one, being a mom is such a physically demanding job with basically no days off, no sick leave. Like it's, you really need a healthy, functioning body. Childbearing is something that only women do. It is very, very hard on your body. It's very unique to women, and you need some extra training to be ready for it, to recover from it, that men just obviously don't have going on. Also, women have to train for menopause, and men don't. Okay, when our hormones start to go downhill, you start to see a lot of things. You see muscle mass go, you see insulin resistance go, and this is I don't care what anyone tells you. When your testosterone tanks and your estrogen tanks, you're going to have a harder time building or maintaining muscle. And half these women aren't even strength training. Yeah. Bone density can go. It can be a really rough time. Now, this is number one, a really good argument why most of you should be replacing your hormones on time, maybe a little preventatively to kind of help mitigate this. But my goodness, let's set ourselves up for as much success going into menopause, which comes for all of us, as we can. Let's not wait until we're already there and be like, oh no, I didn't know. Yes, you did. It's coming for you. And these are the things.
Should not be surprised.
This should not be a surprise. And then lastly, gentlemen, I'm sorry, but do you want a hot, happy wife or not? What do you want? I feel like it needs to be said. Do you want a wife who feels good and looks good? Or are you going to just have a wife who's stressed out, exhausted, and puffy, and who has no self-confidence because she doesn't have the time or the money or the ability or the encouragement to take care of her own body? And I just think, this is the last thing I'll say here, and we'll get to the last one because we have to hurry. Gentlemen, if your wife does not have the time or the energy to train fairly regularly, no, I don't mean 2 days after she had a baby. I mean normally. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. She should be able to take care of her body. She should have the energy to do it, the money to do it, the resources to do it, the encouragement to do it, no guilt. And you know how women are, they have a hard time spending money or time on themselves. So you may have to push her out the door. Go. I got this. You're worth it. Like that might be what you have to do, but this should be a regular part of women's lives. This should be assumed. It should be as regular as brushing your teeth. It might look a little different depending on what season of life you're in. Very
Family
fair.
and all that stuff.
Totally. But it should be a regular, assumed part of life. And it is not. And that is a huge factor into why by the time you hit 40 or 45, you are a disaster. And I'm telling you guys, I find you guys, it's rough. I mean, it is rough. It could have been a lot better if we had done some of these basic things. Do you have anything that you want to add to the exercise?
I just want to add that in all this again. Like remember previous life. Now also there's other problems. The extent of life was probably the average age was 35 for women and 45 for men or something.
Yeah, we're living a lot longer now.
We're living longer.
And that's more recent.
So there's some good things that are happening here. But
problems.
Again, women as homemakers are not as the job's just not as physical as it used to be. You aren't walking down the river getting water. You aren't walking down the river to wash the clothes. You aren't you're dealing with cattle or whatever. I mean,
we're not going to the river.
Yeah. Like go more to the river. Find a river and go. Okay, like whatever you just find a river.
Why are we going to the river?
But the point is just like being a homemaker in the 1800s was far more physical and demanded more exercise and more work and more muscle tone and stuff than being a homemaker now, where you have a toaster, a blender, whatever. And it's all, again, I don't want to talk like this is this is a blessing that God's given us this. Pardon me?
Nothing.
Yeah. This is
I'm laughing at the toaster and the blender.
Yeah. And
it's just so much.
And you have a dishwasher and
that's a big one.
And a washer and dryer
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Not as much the blender.
Yeah. You don't have a blender? And the point is that, actually we need to, I think, pick up some of our physicality now that we're living in this kind of first world scenario. And if our bodies are fighting entropy, really that's our bodies are fighting entropy. So find ways to fight that entropy and live longer and all that stuff. There you go. Man.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Find a river.
The last one, you guys, is I think by the time we're 40, a lot of compounded chronic stress is creeping up on us. And this is the biggest one that I think people really don't register just how big of a health wrecker chronic stress is over time. And that's the problem, is that it's chronic, you guys, which means it's like low level or high level all the time. It's not like, oh, stress, and then everything is good for a while. And then that's normal, right? Our bodies our adrenals can keep up with that. Yeah. And this is a huge problem. And it's funny that you mentioned that, like, in the olden days, it's like we were like making our own candles and, using a washboard. True, but listen.
You had no blender.
But listen, women find a way to stress their bodies out no matter what era they live in. Sure. Okay, so now, yes, we have washing machines and we have all these things, which are great. And that opens up more time. So what do? We're like, well, I'm going to go become a dental hygienist. And I'm also going to volunteer at my kid's school. Right. And I'm also going to do this. And I'm also going to do that. Right. And I'm not saying any of those one things are necessarily bad. I don't know that they are. I don't have a problem with women. I think women should prioritize their house. I don't think that means they have to stay there.
Just women astronauts.
Just not astronauts, okay? That's where we draw the line. Way too stressful. I don't know. But like we just do too many things. And this modern American lifestyle is incredibly stressful. There's weird pressures that we put on ourselves, weird pressures that we feel like we're getting from somewhere else. And women are very bad at saying no. We are very good at saying yes, taking on way too many things. And it doesn't matter what era you live in. It doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home trad wife. It doesn't matter if you're like on Wall Street trying to like keep up with all the, like every woman's body is so stressed out. And guys, stress whacks out metabolism. It disrupts sleep. It puts the body in preservation mode big time. It raises blood sugar, messes with hunger hormones, leptin, ghrelin, etc. You can handle some stress for a period of time. You can go to law school. That's a couple rough, stressful years. Yeah. You can go do this you can do this training program. You can go through labor and delivery. But if we live under this kind of stress for years and years and years and years, you're going to be in a bad spot. And I really do. I mean, again, it's the inability to say no. Too many babies too close together. Not prioritizing or protecting sleep. Not eating enough. Huge stress. Not sleeping enough. Undisciplined thought life. Not enough time or energy to put nutritious food in your body. So you're eating a bunch of, crappy food that's super inflammatory. That's also a stress. All of it is stress. And I just think a lot of us, men and women alike, need to just like sit down and take a hard look at their lives. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of men are stressed out too. You guys need sleep. You guys need stress relief, like you really do. And I just find in men, it comes out usually in blood sugar issues and blood pressure. You see other things, but I see a lot of that. Generally, you guys can handle more physiologically. You guys can usually handle more stress, but everybody has their breaking point. And I just think we have to look at our life and just have everything on the chopping block and be like, what needs to go? Like, what needs to go?
And I would add, and we actually need to wrap up here, for me, I don't look at stress that I want to avoid. Now, there's certain maybe dumb things you're doing that are stressful, whatever, that you can get out of your life, whatever. Being a husband and being responsible, being a leader, being working hard, owning a business, whatever. There's just certain stress that goes with it. But part of what you need to do is train your body and train your body in such a way where we can handle that stress. And it's we can get some stress out of our lives, but
there's some stress you can get rid of. There's other stress you got to make money,
and so can't get rid of your. I don't want to act like that. What we're trying to say is you can be, it's like that 4-hour work week book.
Live a stress-free life.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
But part of it is actually get your diet and food life in such a way and work out a little bit and sleep a little bit. And you actually be able to handle the stress that God has for you and the responsibilities God has for you way better.
That's a really good point.
So any last comments?
Yeah, guys, just to sum up, I'm sorry we're rushing here at the end. It's Gabe's fault. Just to sum up here, okay? If you've been dieting for years, name it, and you need to pay the piper. You have to rebuild your metabolism. You have to eat more. That is the only way out. Do not try to add something more extreme on top of that. That will only make you sicker and more fat down the road, truly, okay? If you've been eating garbage for years, back to your original example, just someone who's truly just eating way too much food or eating crap food, it's time to make some big shifts and put better food in your body. That might take some time because that's a paradigm shift. Stop chasing thin, ladies. Chase healthy, a healthy version of your body, which may not look like the other bodies on Skinny Talk, and that is perfectly fine. Stop, you guys, also looking at regular and intentional exercise as a fringe thing that only health nuts do, okay? You need to find a way to make that part of your life. Start doing that now and just try to make that normal and assumed, like brushing your teeth, okay? Protect sleep at all costs. That's a big one. That's a big one for men. That's a big one for women. You can handle a lot during the day if you are sleeping well at night, okay? I mean, that's a whole show right there, but we got to sleep. And then lastly, we were just talking about the stress. Look at your life from a stress perspective. Quit the job, throw out the TV, start saying no, go to couples therapy if you need it, cut out the toxic friendship, downsize your house so your bills are lower, so your wife doesn't have to pay the bills for you. Oh, there's an idea. Okay, guard your sleep. Be willing to make big changes, and gentlemen, make sure your wife has the ability, the bandwidth, the money, the time, the energy to train regularly, or you're doing it wrong. Okay, is that good?
Email us your questions at RenchMedia@gmail.com. RenchMedia, RENCH, RenchMedia@gmail.com. We'll hope to see you at our summit, March 27th, 28th. Go to waterbreak.tv, click on Summit, and you can register for a regular ticket or also a VIP ticket and have dinner with our speakers and everything Friday night before the conference starts. So thank you so much for joining Waterbreak. We really do hope these shows are helpful to you. And if they are, please share. Please text them to your friends. Please help us get the word out on what we're doing. So thank you for joining Waterbreak, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.